Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Vable F1 podcast, a long overdue episode of the Vable F1 cast. Probably like most of you listening, we've had very busy Christmases. We've obviously had to wait till Joshua stopped crying at the end of the 2021 Formula One season after the catastrophe that was Abu Dhabi, where Max Verstappen stole the championship off Lewis Hamilton on the last lap. Obviously, neither driver's fault. And I think we've all probably got the same opinion on what happened. Obviously, at the time, I thought it was fantastic entertainment. And then I realised this probably shouldn't be fantastic entertainment, and it should be fantastic entertainment in a sporting context rather than for the sake of entertainment. So, we've all got our opinions on that. I think plenty of media outlets have also put all their opinions out on that. So I don't think we kind of need to dwell on that too much. I'm sure we'll mention it at the end when we come to what we're going to talk about today, which is an episode we've all been waiting probably almost 12 months for. It must have been March, February that we made these. We made our predictions at the start of the season. We'd all first met on a Zoom call for the very first time. Didn't really know anything about each other. Didn't know how much we all knew about F1. And I think we're probably going to find out how knowledgeable we were back then today. We all ranked where we thought the drivers would finish in the championship. We all ranked where we thought the teams would finish the championship. We also gave a couple of wild and silly predictions as well, some of which were quite accurate. So we're going to have a look at those. Just have a bit of a laugh, really, probably mostly at me. And we'll kind of see who did the best. No point system or anything like that. We'll just, see how it went. So, Callum McAvoy, Callum O and Joshua Fletcher, all with me as usual. We're going to go from bottom to top. We'll start with Haas, and I don't think we really need to talk about Haas too much. All of us got this first prediction wrong. We all predicted Nikita Mazepin to finish 20th in the championship. He actually finished 21st in the championship because I can't remember who it was. We had somebody come in, I think it was Robert Kubica came in for Alfa Romeo at one point, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, and replaced him and finished better than him, which meant he finished better in the championship. So we all got that one wrong, but essentially the prediction was Mazepin would finish last, and he did. Hopefully next season we'll probably see the true Mazepin if Haas develop their car like this they're saying they've been all season. We may see him get a bit closer to the pack, but who knows? And that's the same with Mick Schumacher, which we all kind of got right as well. I put him 17th, so did Joshua. Callum M and Callum O, him 19th and 18th, so all kind of in the right area. So I think Haas, we don't really need to dwell on too much. Callum M, do you think when we come to make our predictions for next season, which I'm sure we will do, that will be much different to that?
Well, not much different, no. Essentially, we all knew this was going to be a kind of a write-off year for Haas. Like, they turned up to testing with all sorts of problems, so they kind of said, "I'll screw this year. You Nikita, Mike, and Mick, just go out and learn how to drive an F1 car for a bit, and we'll work on next year's car." Just basically what they're doing. So, who knows? Maybe Haas will actually have the fastest car next year. It's possible, but no, I doubt it. But you'd like to think they'll be closer to the pack at least, even if they are still like last. If they're still at least like trying to fight for points, that'd be great. So.
And these cars next year are supposed to be better for racing, aren't they? So even if they are close to the back of the pack, like you said, and there is more racing there, that gives us more action to look at, right? If Hamilton goes on and destroys and smashes the championship like he has every other year up to 2021, and we'll have some. Isn't where we want the action to be, but as long as we've got action, then that's great. Don't need to dwell on that too much. Next up is Alfa Romeo. Antonio Giovinazzi and Kimi Raikkonen, the two Alfa Romeo drivers. Giovinazzi, I put him 19th. Really underrated him, I have to say. Joshua put him 18th. Callum O put him 16th, and Callum M put him 15th. So it got slightly better for him. Joshua, you were the one that got this one right. 18th for Antonio Giovinazzi. And that position is probably the reason he's not got a seat next year.
I think when you're an Italian driver, you drive for, you're a Ferrari reserve driver, there's sort of that expectation on you. And he struggled. I think Alfa struggled as well. You can see why there's a whole new team there, obviously with Kimi retiring. But I think it's roundabout all right. Obviously, it is the reason he's lost his seat. I think if he was 3 or 4 places higher, he might have stayed, but just disappointing for him and the team, really.
Callum O, do you think we'll ever see Giovinazzi back in Formula One again?
He's sort of said a lot of my journey isn't over, I'll be back in F1, but I really failed to see where. I don't think he did enough at Alfa Romeo, who in his time with him have been a backmarker team. He's not done enough to justify staying in a backmarker team. So why is any team above that going to take a chance on him? And without the appeal of a big sponsorship or lots of money, I don't think we'll see Giovinazzi back in F1 on the grid. I think we'll see him in the paddock as a reserve driver, but no more than that.
I think we can all be agreed on that. I can't quite remember which route he's taken, whether I think it's Formula E he's gone to, isn't it? Or is it WEC? I'm not too sure. But I think he's signed on those, or maybe even both championships. But his teammate is somebody that we will definitely never see in Formula One ever again, and somebody that we probably should spend a bit of time talking about, as he spent plenty of time entertaining us down the years. That's Kimi Raikkonen. None of us got this one right. We were all one place out, whether that was high or low. Myself and Joshua both went 15th. Callum O and Callum M both went 17th, and he finished 16th overall in the championship. Callum M, it's going to be strange, isn't it, without Kimi in Formula One next year?
Yeah, we will never see a driver like Kimi Raikkonen ever again in Formula One. Personality-wise, you just don't get characters like that anymore. I don't know if it's a Scandinavian thing or a Finnish thing, but you just don't get people like Kimi. And even though like the last few years he's been at Alpha, he's not really been on the track, like involved in the thick of it. You've often felt his presence on the paddock anyway. So and even like recently, he's even like had an interview where he said, "I'm really not going to miss doing like certain parts of like the interviews and the media stuff." And it's like we knew that, Kimi. He didn't have to say it. Like we knew you didn't like doing it. So, but hopefully he'll still hang around the paddock a bit just for entertainment reasons. But he will be missed. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I know a lot of drivers now are probably media trained as well as they come up through the ranks, which probably wasn't such a thing when Kimi probably first started out. So he probably never kind of had that media training, wasn't particularly talkative. I remember Martin Brundle in Sky's post-race show, I think it was the only thing that they talked about other than obviously what happened in Abu Dhabi. He said he's one of the most talkative, funny people that he's met in the paddock. And then obviously we see not miserable side, but certainly a different character on TV and stuff like that. So yeah, the two Alfa Romeo drivers, okay, so it's kind of where we expected them to finish. Sad to see Kimi go. I remember Callum M, I think it was you said, Giovinazzi is probably one of the most unforgettable Formula One drivers that we've had on the grid this season. Joshua, in terms of Kimi, if we do see him back in the paddock, what kind of things do you think he'll be doing? Because I don't think it's going to be media.
No, I can't imagine him doing anything really within the sport again. I think he loves racing, but I think he's bored of it now, almost with what Formula One has become, potentially what we saw in that final race, the entertainment aspect. I think if he could just drive and not have to do any interviews, he'd race for another 5 years if he could. But I think he's just bored of it. I don't know whether he'll do some sort of team advisor role, potentially with Ferrari, something later on. But yeah, he's definitely not going to be in front of the camera or being allowed to be interviewed. I think is fair enough. He's given so much of his life and career to this. He deserves a well-earned break.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure we'll probably see him back watching races and I'm sure he'll get plenty of free hospitality for, all the things he's done for Formula One over the years. I'm sure they could spare him a couple of tickets every now and again. So yeah, Alfa Romeo, again, we all got this right in terms of predictions. I think for 9th spot and 8th spot, it was between Alfa Romeo and Williams. Myself and Callum O got this one right with going with Alfa in 9th. It was Joshua and Callum M who put them 8th. Understandable, and nothing wrong with that. They did finish 9th overall. So yeah, I think bottom 3 we all got pretty spot on. Let's talk about Williams then. And Nicholas Latifi first of all. Not to blow my own trumpet, but I'm going to say who got it right and who got it wrong. But I was the only person that got this one right with Latifi. He came 17th overall in the championship. Joshua put 19th, Callum O 18th, and Callum M also 19th. Callum O, an interesting season for Latifi. It's going to be interesting, I think, to see him next up against Alex Albon in that Williams next year.
Yeah, I think going into his third year in F1, it's undoubtedly his biggest, because I think whilst George Russell was at Williams, there was an expectation of Latifi is the number 2 driver by a mile. And now with Albon returning after a tough 2020, taking a year out, he's coming back in, not as a rookie, but probably not far off in terms of people's expectations. So if Latifi can really go in and beat Albon and make Williams his team, that'd be massive. But if he fails to do so, I wouldn't be shocked if we're sat here in a year talking about Latifi being out of Formula One after being beaten by Alex Albon.
He did show form once or twice. There were a couple of times where he was challenging Russell as well at times. I think he did out qualifying once or twice as well, which was obviously a surprise after the first 2 years that we saw that pair together. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see how he does next year. His teammate is even more excited to talk about Callum M. All of us put him 16th, apart from Callum O, who put him 15th, which is where we finished. So Callum got that one right. But Callum M, it's going to be great to see Russell in that Mercedes. Mercedes doing loads of great media stuff already, putting pictures of him getting in the car, testing, post-season and all that kind of stuff. How excited are you to see him back in Formula One? Season for him as well, finally getting his first points with Williams this year.
Yeah, it was funny actually. January 1st came around and all of a sudden it was just like George Russell in Mercedes gear was like everywhere on social media. And I was like, a bit disrespectful to Valtteri Bottas, but okay, we'll talk about that a bit later maybe. But no, yeah, very excited. I mean, obviously it depends how good the Mercedes car is for this upcoming season, but George Russell is an outside chance for the championship, I think, for this year. But no, I thought he had another great year. Obviously got that podium in Belgium, a little bit debatable. Obviously, some people question the legitimacy of it because it wasn't really a race, but hey, whatever. A podium's a podium. And no, it was good to see Williams actually get some good results. And, hopefully with this new ownership that they're under, maybe they can do some good spins this year as well. So, yeah, no, I'm just really looking forward to seeing Russell in Mercedes. Yeah.
And I think the moment of the year for me, for George Russell, was when, obviously not the whole year, just for Russell, was when he, I think it was Hungary, when he was telling the team to, sacrifice my race, let's let, I think it was Nicky who referred to him at the time, let's let Latifi have the good result and getting the points. And I can't remember where Latifi was, whether he was kind of close to the podium-ish. But yeah, I remember that, and that shows he's a team player. Joshua, as a Hamilton fan, last one on Russell, are you slightly worried about George Russell? Because I remember Sky saying this as well. Callum's just said it. Surely George Russell in a Mercedes, he has to go for the World Championship. Does that worry you as a Hamilton fan?
I'm sure we'll get onto this later. We don't know if 100% if he's coming back officially. I think we all suspect he will, but he said he'll wait until that investigation, so we could see a whole brand new Mercedes lineup as well. But if Hamilton does stay, it's a tricky one. I think he knows that Russell's competitive. He probably won't allow himself to be in that Bottas role of Bottas was Hamilton's support driver. He sort of was the buffer when he needed to be, and was sacrificed quite a lot. And I think Russell understands he's going into a team maybe for 2 years with Hamilton sort of leading it, and then he'll have his final. Then Hamilton will leave and Russell will take over as that number 1 seat. He'll be hungry. He'll get some wins, but I think he'll know his role for at least for the next season or two.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be interesting. I think, yeah, he's got to go for wins, got to go for the championship. Whether this is Hamilton's last season, whether Hamilton even comes back is already kind of up in the air and something that we don't know. Yeah, in terms of Williams, same as last time, myself and Callum both put them 8th, and Joshua and Callum M both put them 9th, and obviously finished 8th overall in the standings. So yeah, nothing too bad about the kind of back of the pack predictions there from us. We all kind of got them in the right areas, kind of between 15th and 20th. So no problems there. The next team we've got to talk about is Aston Martin, and the first driver I don't really want to dwell on too much, Lance Stroll. We all kind of overrated him a little bit this season. I put him 9th, Joshua 11th. Callum O 9th and Callum M 10th, and he finished 13th overall in the championship. And Callum M, I think it was you, I remember saying that there's always a team that turns up saying we're going to be the fast team, we're going to be the kind of underrated team, and they just never are. And I think that was kind of perfectly sums up Aston Martin's season, doesn't it?
Yeah, Drive to Survive is going to be hilarious when Lawrence Stroll turns up as a bomb, as he always does. Like, we should definitely be challenging for podiums this year. In fairness, they did get a podium, didn't they? Vettel in Baku?
Yeah, Vettel in
Oh, yeah, okay, they
Baku,
got one
yeah.
podium. I'll give them that. But no, yeah, really weird to see Aston Martin just drop off a cliff. Like you said, there is always that team that bigs themselves up and just fails. But I think I probably thought that was going to be Alpine. I don't know who I predicted actually. I don't know whoever it was. But yeah, no, yeah, this Lance Stroll has just on him, really struggled this year. Don't really know what the cause of it is. I know a lot of people don't like him. A lot of people think he's a pay driver. I think he is a good driver. I don't think he's a great one. But yeah, really off year. So don't know what that's about. But I don't know. Maybe he'll come back stronger this year.
And let's talk about his teammate, because I think this is going to be the first howler of the episode. Sebastian Vettel finished 12th overall in the championship. Callum M, it was this one that you got right. You did get him 12th. Callum O put him 8th. Joshua put him 9th. I put him 5th in the standings. And I think that was based off last year's, 2020's racing point, which was fairly quick. But yeah, Sebastian Vettel 5th. I said he was going to come back and be the old Callum O. Apart from having a slow car, what went wrong for Sebastian Vettel this season? Why wasn't he as highly? Why didn't he finish as highly as I predicted him to?
I mean, I don't think he'd have predicted himself to finish 5th. I think that's more of a problem with your prediction than Vettel's skills. I think I don't know. I think, as you said, the car did sort of fall off a cliff for Aston Martin between their last year's Racing Point and this season's car. But I think Seb would be the first to admit that there was a lot of qualifying sessions that they struggled in. Like Saudi Arabia jumps out at me, 17th and 18th. Literally, the only cars worse were the two Hasses. And I think that was too regular of a story, that they weren't good enough in qualifying, which left their drivers with a lot to do in the races. And while there were some good performances from Seb, they were just a bit too far in between. And I think it was definitely an improvement on this final year of Ferrari, but I think there's still a lot more to go if that's the driver pairing that they want to win Aston Martin the World Championships like they predict. There needs to be improvement.
I think consistently inconsistent is probably the way I would put it. I mean, I remember saying after Baku that this is where Vettel's going to pick up now. My prediction was obviously looking bad at the time, but I think Baku was maybe like the 3rd race of the season, something like that. It was more of the 5th. It was really early on. And I thought, yeah, that's the podium. Obviously, events around that, Verstappen and Hamilton both DNFing caused that to happen. But yeah, I thought, yeah, Vettel's going to kick on now. Aston Martin going to hit some form, and it just never happened. So yeah, Joshua, do you think with Sebastian Vettel that if Aston Martin get themselves into gear this year, do you think we'll ever see the Sebastian Vettel of old, where he could be challenging for race win and podiums this year?
I don't think we'll see the same Vettel that we saw at Red Bull. I don't think it will be challenging for championships. I think that's a big mountain to climb to get back into that 3rd spot and challenge Red Bull and Merc. But I think if they can get the car to a decent enough position that they were 2 years ago, when they were like Racing Point's final season, when they basically just copied the Mercedes from the season previous, I do think he could get a couple of wins. You could get a couple of 2 or 3 wins for him or the team. But I think he's way off, and the team are way off challenging and properly mounting a consistent campaign for a championship.
Yeah. Late this year with the new regulations, it's going to be very interesting to see who gets it right and who gets it wrong. I think Aston Martin probably could be that team again, whether they could get it absolutely spot on and surprise everybody after how bad they were last year, or it could be a similar season to last season where they just don't get it right. We all kind of overrated them, like we already said. Callum M were the closest this time in terms of where the team finished. I put them 4th, Joshua 5th, Callum O 4th. Callum M put them 6th, and they finished 7th overall in the standings, which is reflective of inconsistent performances this season, I think. The next one is an interesting one to talk about. It's Alfred Towery. We obviously had a rookie in his team with Yuki Tsunoda. We'll start with his French teammate first, Pierre Gasly. All of us underrated Gasly, it has to be said, this season. I put him 11th, Joshua 10th, Callum O 11th as well, and Callum M put him 13th. He ended up finishing 9th in the championship. Callum M, a good season for Pierre Gasly. And I think one word for that is qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a bit like George Russell. He's like kind of like a Mr. Saturday type figure. It helps as well that Alfred Towery actually have a decent car that can actually get in the points at every race, which I didn't really used to. I think that's kind of why I put him down 13th. It wasn't a reflection of the driver. It was more a reflection of just the car. But no, the Alfred Towery have consistently put out good cars for him this year. So yeah, he is the driver, I think, more than anyone else on the grid. I'm intrigued to see where his career goes, because there's no way he wants to go to Red Bull again, especially with what went down last time, and with Max Verstappen's going to stay there. Like, why would you want to be his teammate? So, I mean, I'd love to see him at Mercedes when Lewis retires in 2 years' time, if that's what allegedly is going to happen. It could even be this season, who knows? But I think he's a top drver, so I won't be making the mistake of putting him as low as 13th again if I do my predictions for this next season.
I think even that my Vettel 5th could possibly be Gasly, and that is obviously assuming that Alpha Tauri get things right next season. His teammate Yuki Tsunoda, Joshua, was a really interesting one. Pat ourselves on the back. All of us got this one bang on. We all put 14th, and that's precisely where he finished. But a bit like we were saying with Aston Martin, consistently inconsistent Tsunoda. I remember at the start, we all heard about his attitude and all that kind of stuff. And I think when he signed his contract, he said he was surprised that he'd got the drive or something kind of along those lines. What are your thoughts on Tsunoda this season? Well, in 2021, Joshua?
It's really interesting. I think he started off quite exciting. That first race of the season, I think he did a brilliant move on Fernando Alonso. And we were like, all right, cool. We've got a good driver. We've got someone exciting, new, 20, 21 years of age, will be here for a long time. And he had 2 or 3 decent races. And we were like, okay, maybe we found someone who would be the next Red Bull driver after Perez goes, or will be in the future, will be there and challenging for titles with Max. And then it just sort of went like that, and he dipped massively and picked it up again towards the end of the season, to be fair to him. But again, I think consistently inconsistent describes him perfectly. Exciting at times. I know this is rookie season, but he did make quite a lot of mistakes. He plunged it into the wall in qualifying a couple of times, I think. There was a couple of moments you just like, just maybe it was a bit too early. Maybe he's being put too much pressure on being in that system, and maybe be another victim of that Red Bull system where you get some exciting drivers, but ultimately they don't all really pay off. But it'll be interesting to see how he does next season, and maybe goes and takes Perez's seat in a couple of years' time.
And Callum O was spot on for this one for Alfred Towery. All of us put in 7, put them 7, apart from you, put the 6. And that's precisely where they finished. So well done on that one. We'll come to you next, Callum O, on Alpine, and we'll start with Esteban Ocon. It's Callum M that's got this one right, so he's leading the way so far. I put Ocon 13th. We had Joshua 12th. Callum O also, and Callum M, like I said, 11th, which is where Esteban Ocon finished. A race win for Ocon in 2021, which, Callum, is probably the difference between him finishing 11th and where we put him in 13th.
Yeah, I mean, it was very unexpected, wasn't it? I think, to be fair, it's all about taking the opportunities when they're given to you, and I'd imagine he was over the moon when turn 2 at Hungary opened up and only Hamilton was ahead of him. And then once again, when Hamilton pulled into the pits and he led the race. But I think he had a very solid season. I think there was definite low points. I think both the Austrian weekends, 17th from qualifying, and fairly innocuous races. But I think there are also high points. Saudi Arabia, even though he did lose the podium, but still 4th, an excellent result. Obviously, Hungary was a good result. And I think he matched up better against Fernando Alonso than a lot of people expected. So I think it's a good season for Ocon. It's something he can build on going into 2022.
It's very close to beating Alonso. Alonso came 10th in the end and Ocon finishing 11th, which is probably kind of about right for where Alpine were. And yeah, like you mentioned, he was a centre of attention in Saudi as well, wasn't he? Over the radio calls, where was Ocon going to start? Everyone would have thought, it was a disgrace if Ocon was moved down to third and it was Hamilton and Verstappen first and second, or however that was going to work. Takes its opportunities when it's there for him as well, and obviously took that winning grid very well. Obviously, I think he had to hold somebody off in the end as well to win that one, or somebody was catching up. Can't quite. I think Alonso also played a part in that, and they seem to have a good relationship down there at Alpine as well. In terms of his teammate Fernando Alonso, obviously returning into Formula One, Joshua said he was a waste of a seat back at the start of the season. Alonso, I put him 12th, Joshua put him 13th, Callum O put him 12th, and Callum M put him 7th. So Callum M, let's go to you on this one. Alonso finished 10th overall. Was he a waste of a seat?
No. It was kind of a weird one with him and Alpine in general, because they were just kind of okay, just kind of there really. Obviously, they had the win in Hungary and a couple of podiums as well. Was it Qatar? He got his podium, Alonso. So you can't say it was
something like that.
Yeah, you can't say it's a waste of a seat. And the top 10 finish is a top 10 finish, and that's really good. So yeah, I think it was a good year overall. I think next year will be a clearer sign of where Alonso is as a driver and where Alpine are as a team. Obviously, there's been a bit of controversy. Obviously, Piastri, who was the Formula 2 champion, hasn't got a seat for this year. He is the reserve driver at Alpine, though, and it looks like he's going to be driving there next year, but it depends if Ocon or Alonso decide to make way. So this could be Alonso's last year in F1 for good. And I think he's just there just to drive a decent car and help the team in a development role rather than challenge for wins and such. So no, I don't think it was a waste of a seat overall. No, he's done his job perfectly. So yeah.
I'm sure Piastri as well is probably thinking similar to how Joshua at the start of the season in terms of that waste of a seat. I think I remember after he won the I think it was the feature race. I think in his interview in Abu Dhabi, he said, "Oh, I can't believe I'm sitting on the sofa next year." Not doing anything and only, driving in reserve. Joshua, you made the comment, so I've got to let you come in on it. You said it was a waste of a seat at the start of the season. Are you regretting that now, or are you still kind of thinking the same thing?
It's a difficult one because I sort of said it in the sense that I think they were younger drivers, someone like Alex Albon, who I think that Red Bull system didn't necessarily suit him. He got the promotion far too early. And same with Gasly, he got that demotion far too early. I know he wasn't performing, but it wasn't a title winning car. We all knew what was going to happen, and the halfway stage just before the season, maybe they jumped the gun a bit. So I thought Albon being out of the sport or being out of Red Bull, maybe, and didn't get back to Alfred Towery, maybe deserved another shot. And there were other drivers floating around, but he's done okay. As we've said, he was in a midfield team. He did okay. He got a podium. Ocon won a race. No, it was fine. It was fine. I think he's not going to be here for another 5 years, and we'll probably see Piastri in there in a season or two's time. Which is where I'm excited about getting those younger drivers who are winning F2, F3 previously. But it'll be fine for another season.
I don't think it'll be long. Obviously, we're going to see Guan Yu Zhou back in the Alfa Romeo next season. But I know Zhou was part of the Alpine Academy as well, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him go back there. And if it's him and Piastri in an Alpine in a few years' time, once Ocon and Alonso have moved on, or Ocon may even show what he's worth and move him up the grid. I think at the start of the season, I thought Ocon was just average, but now I think this year's made me appreciate him, a bit more as a driver as well. In terms of Alpine, we were all just slightly out by a place or two. They ended up finishing 5th in the championship. I put them in. Just looking here, 6th. Joshua put them 6th, Callum O put them 7th, and Callum M put them 4th. So all of us there or thereabouts with Alpine. Let's move on to the team in orange, and that is McLaren. we're all okay on this one as well, to be fair. I put Norris, first of all, in 7th. Then Joshua put him 6th. Then we had Callum O putting him 7th and Callum M putting him 6th. So Joshua and Callum M in this one, right? Callum M's doing very well so far because Lando Norris did finish 6th overall in the championship. And Callum O, he showed how good he is, I think, this season.
Yeah, I think 6th actually is a bit of an unfair reflection on Norris, considering he spent a large part of the start of the season in 3rd. I think he struggled later on, but I think that's not a him issue. I think that was much more McLaren, and he did have moments like Sochi that he'll look back on and regret, but arguably he was the driver of the season for the first half of the season. He was excellent in Austria, good at Bahrain. He had like his podium in Imola, should have been on the front row really in Imola, and he's just very, very consistent. The only reason he finished outside the points in the first half of the season is because Bottas decided to just rear end him going into turn 1 at Hungary. So I think it was an excellent season from Norris, and he's got plenty more to do to become the world champion that a lot of people now believe he could come. I think before this season, people went, he could be a world champion, but you look at George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen. I think Norris is now mentioned amongst those names.
And Callum M, of what Callum just said there, imagine how good the World Championship could be next season if all the teams get this right, let's say, and we have Leclerc challenging for it. We have Sainz, Russell, Hamilton and Verstappen, obviously, Norris thrown into that mix. If Ricciardo settles himself in quicker than he did last year, it could be one heck of a championship fight next season with the talent that Lando's got as well.
Oh, don't let me dream, Matt. I've been wanting a championship like that for 10 years. I'm still waiting for it. Yeah, remarkable stat is that McLaren were the only team this season to get a 1-2 finish, which of course they did in Monza with Ricciardo obviously winning. Just amazing that Red Bull and Mercedes didn't crack that either. But no, yeah, as I think Callum Owen alluded to, pretty much as soon as like they won in Monza, McLaren stopped developing the car, and that kind of allowed Ferrari to overtake them in the constructors. But no, it's still a great year for McLaren, a great year for Norris. Yeah, I as you said, first half of the season, probably was the best driver there. And it's been such a manic season that I completely forget that he nearly won Sochi. Like that's just how much has gone down over the last 12 months that I completely forget he was 2 laps and a thunderstorm away from winning in Russia. But Callum said it all really. Great driver, great team. Let's hope they can do something next year.
And I think his teammate, we all rated a little bit too highly, but probably correctly. You know, Daniel Ricciardo is a fantastic driver, but I don't think we need to discuss this one too much. But I think he just took too long to settle in at McLaren, and that was the difference between him finishing 4th and 5th, where we all predicted him, and him finishing 8th overall in the championship. I put him 4th, Joshua 5th, Callum 5th, and then Callum M also put him 4th, like me. And Ricciardo just took a bit too long to settle in this year, didn't he, Joshua?
Yeah, it's a shame with Ricciardo because he's sort of again been a victim of the Red Bull machine, and I think he really could have done well at Red Bull. But they dropped him. Didn't really. Renault again. He sort of took too long to settle in. Had some really couple of high moments, and then he's moved on again. And I thought McLaren was a decent fit for him. But again, I don't know what it is, whether it was the team, the institution, whether he moving all that around has just affected him. But I think now he's got a season under his belt. He's got a race win under his belt, which I don't think he got at Renault. He's got that confidence to go in. New season, new rules, new regs. I really hope he does perform, and he's in that mix of 3 or 4 teams that are consistently winning races or challenging for podiums. Because I think he's got a lot of talent that hasn't really been reflected in the last 3 seasons, 4 seasons maybe.
I think we saw that towards the end of this season as well. Once it was kind of properly settled in that car, I think it was him that took the race win, wasn't it, in Monza as well? So let's hope we see a Daniel Ricciardo kind of old, and maybe even better than old. And like we said, if McLaren get it right and are in the championship fight next season, which we have every reason to believe that they could be, it could be an interesting battle between those two. And I think it'll probably be a bit closer as well than it was. Let's move on to an interesting one. Ferrari. Callum M said, I don't think Ferrari can be as bad as they were last year. Is it possible for Ferrari to build a worse car? I think is probably the exact phrase you used. In terms of McLaren, very quickly, we were all one off. We all predicted McLaren to finish third overall, and they finished fourth. Ferrari, interesting season for them, better season for them, without a shadow of a doubt. Two very talented drivers in Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Having a look at where we put them, it was Joshua who got this one right for Leclerc. I put him 8th, Joshua put him 7th, Callum O put him 6th, and Callum M also put him 8th. Overall, it was Charles Leclerc who finished 7th. So yeah, Joshua getting that one right. Callum O, again, another fantastic driver who could be in the race for the championship next season. And interesting to see the battle between Leclerc and Sainz this year. What did you make of that?
I mean, pound for pound, I think they're the best. That's the best driver lineup on the grid, especially last year. I mean, the only one that can rival them going into this year is Hamilton and Russell at Mercedes. But I think Leclerc obviously had a season with a lot of high points, a lot of low points. Obviously, he's crashed in Monaco and not being able to start the race, losing victory so late on at Silverstone. But I still think Silverstone was a highlight for him. I think his pole in Baku, obviously, another highlight. I think he just maybe was a bit too unlucky at times, whereas Carlos Sainz was potentially the most consistent driver on the grid throughout the season. Scored every race after France. Was it 3 podiums? In Hungary, Abu Dhabi and Monaco. I really think he was excellent, and Ferrari did a lot better than I thought they would this year.
And looking at his teammate Carlos Sainz, like you just mentioned, I think maybe not a howler, but we all got this quite wrong. I put him 10th, Joshua put him 8th, Callum O also put him 10th, and Callum M put him 9th. And obviously Sainz consistency put him 5th overall in the championship. Joshua, were you surprised by that, considering obviously I think it was you put him 8th, you kind of rated him the highest out of all of us. Were you surprised at where he finished?
A little bit, yeah. I think I definitely underestimated Ferrari. I didn't think they weren't really in the mix, but they were the best of the rest, really. But I thought that would have been McLaren. Yeah, a little bit surprised. I always thought Sainz was fine, but he was a mid-table teams. He was never really consistently challenging for wins or podiums or titles. But I think it's a really good fit. I thought Leclerc was a better driver, being at Ferrari longer. I thought he had that better experience. But I think we're right. I think definitely Callum's right. That's arguably the best and most even driver lineup. I think you saw the disparity between Hamilton and Bottas, and the Red Bull preference of build a car for Verstappen and stick someone else in there rather than tailor it to both their drivers. But yeah, I think, and they're good friends as well. I think that will help. That's what helps the dynamic. But yeah, maybe we've learned a lesson not to underestimate Carlos Sainz when we do our season predictions in a couple of weeks' time.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how those two get on next season. Again, if Ferrari get the car right, I need to stop repeating myself, but I'm just kind of imagining, like I said to Callum M, I'm not trying to make myself dream, but I'm kind of imagining this kind of 4-way championship fight in terms of between the teams, and then 8 drivers being involved in it. It would be incredible. I know it's not going to happen, but just thinking about it is nice. Ferrari overall, again, Callum M, like we said, can they get any worse? We didn't really rate them that highly. I put them 5th overall, Joshua 4th, Callum O 5th, and Callum M put them 6th. Callum M's really not a Ferrari fan here, and they finished 3rd overall in standings. But Callum, let's make you a bit happier. Let's talk about Red Bull. Let's talk about Sergio Perez. And I have to say, I'm very disappointed in you here. You got this one wrong, I'm afraid. I put him 6th, which was the worst of the 4. Joshua and Callum O both put him 4th, which is very foolish. Callum, he was slightly out. You put him 5th overall, and he finished 4th. Talk to us about Sergio Perez this season in the Red Bull.
And what more is there to say? Greatest driver on the grid, not just this of all time, obviously. Now, I think it's weird. Sergio Perez has got a bit of a bad rap. Like people are saying, "Oh, you look at what Verstappen's doing in that Red Bull, and how Perez wasn't anywhere close, and how oh, Perez is the reason Red Bull didn't win the Constructors Championship." And I'm like, Perez did literally what he was asked to do, which was to support Max at literally every turn. And that was so evident in the last Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi when he heroically held up Lewis for about 2 laps and literally we saw the gap between Lewis and Max go from like 20 seconds to 2 seconds, like just like that. That was all down to what Sergio was doing. Questionable defending, perhaps, but whatever. That's racing, as they say. But look, Sergio came in, he had one job and he did it, basically. Got a win as well in Baku. Probably could have got a few more. Did have a couple of slow patches during the season, but, he came in, he did his job perfectly fine. And, I probably underestimated it. I think I overestimated Ricciardo, putting him 4th ahead of Sergio in my predictions. But, 4th was probably where he was expected to finish, given the car he had. So, all good.
And Joshua, is Sergio Perez going to accept the role as Max Verstappen's wingman again next season? Or do you think he's going to be thinking to himself, I want to win the World Championship this year?
He shouldn't accept it, knowing that Red Bull built a car that has won a championship, a driver's championship. I think he might. I think with Verstappen winning that last season, I think he'll want to go and do it again. Red Bull obviously won the drivers' championship. They didn't win the constructors, so I'm not sure whether the car for both of them works. I think we all know it's public knowledge. Historically, they build a car for Verstappen, and that's why Gasly, Albon have all struggled. Even Daniel towards his last season there. So he shouldn't accept that. No, he shouldn't accept sort of the number 2 role. I think in the end he probably will be in that position where he'll support Max to get that back-to-back winning seasons. But I don't know whether that mentality is good enough.
And we'll talk about the championship in just a moment. But at the moment, we're kind of talking about wingmen. And Valtteri Bottas, we all got that one right. We all put him 3rd. That's exactly where he finished. And Callum O, my question to you is, who was the better wingman to their championship challenger this season? Was it Sergio for Max, or was it Valtteri for Lewis?
I mean, if you look at the championship, it was Valtteri, but I think Perez had more of the standout sort of moments, the big defending against Hamilton at Abu Dhabi sort of moments like that, whereas Bottas was more consistently there. If we're looking at probably the most top 3s, it is between Mercedes and Verstappen, which would suggest Bottas did a better job. And I think he was probably more experienced at that job. It's his 5th year in a top team, really his 5th year being second fiddle to Hamilton. So I'd say Bottas did the job just as well as he had in previous years. Obviously, a few quiet races and a few quiet qualifyings that he should have been higher up to sort of fight for Hamilton, like Abu Dhabi, finished 6th on the weekend. They needed him most. But I'd say Bottas was a very solid wingman and possibly a better wingman than Perez.
I think, like you said, Perez probably had more of the standout moments stopping Hamilton from doing something. But, I can't think of many times where Verstappen and Bottas were going at it out on track, so someone come in if you can. But it seemed like Bottas was consistently getting the results, whereas if Perez was involved, it was him doing the defending or doing something to kind of help Max a little bit more. And Perez did have some poor qualifying sessions. There were a couple that I can think, well, not exactly when they were, but he didn't get through to Q1, I think, once or twice throughout the season as well. And Bottas was I think consistently there for Mercedes as well. Callum M, Valtteri Bottas and Alfa Romeo, for me, it's going to be really strange seeing him there next season, isn't it?
It is a bit jarring. Obviously, I think how long's he been at Mercedes for? 5 years, I think you just said.
I think so.
2017,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. So that is going to be a bit jarring, but it'll be a bit like when Raikkonen went from Ferrari to Alfa Romeo and just kind of quietly just did a job there. I can't see Alfa doing particularly well just in general, so I think he's just going to be there just to help the team out, be an experienced hand. Yeah, so all I can really say. I like Valtteri Bottas. I think a lot of people do. Seems like a nice enough guy, but he was never a great driver. He's a good driver, and he's won races. He's got podiums, and he's been part of an extremely dominant Mercedes team, one of the most dominant partnerships in Formula One with Lewis. But he was never more than just a good driver, unfortunately.
I think that probably shows the fact that we all put third overall in the championship as well. We weren't expecting him to really challenge this season, and there wasn't really any point where he looked like he was going to mount a challenge. Did show better form once it was out that he was going to Alpha. I think we can all agree on that. But still, again, was sometimes inconsistent as well with his performances. We'll just brush the constructors' predictions aside before we get to the top two, because we all got that right. We all put Red Bull second, all put Mercedes first in the Constructors Championship. So well done to us all there. We'll have a look at how many we all got right a little bit later on. But let's talk about it. The championship battle. Josh was shaking his head, so I'm going to come to him first. All of us put Verstappen second and Hamilton first. That's obviously not how it ended. We would have all been spot on about 2 minutes-ish before the end of the season. But that's not what happened. Max Verstappen went on and won his first ever Formula One World Championship. Impossible to know where to start with this one, apart from just an unbelievable battle. I think in Callum M, we both kind of agreed in that we kind of thought Verstappen was, devil's advocate. Verstappen's going to win it, but I think we both, our head was kind of saying, our heart was kind of saying Hamilton will win it rather than our head with Verstappen. But Joshua, let's just come to you because I want to pick up on what you said during our predictions episode. I listened to it back the other week. You said there's no way Max wins a title in a Red Bull. And you said that Hamilton was going to absolutely walk this championship. You said no way Max wins a title in a Red Bull. His head's in his hands. What have you got to say for yourself, Joshua?
Right, I got it horribly wrong. I thought there'd be a decent battle for about half of the season, and then, like we've seen historically before, Mercedes and Hamilton would continue to rise. It didn't happen. On the basis of the 20 races, on balance, Verstappen deserved to win that title. Hands down, easily deserved to win it. With it going to a one race shootout for 54 of 50, whatever it was, 51 out of 57, 54 out of 57, I forgot where it all went crazy. Hamilton deserved to win the title based on that last race shootout. So it is what it is. We all got it wrong. Verstappen ended up crossing the line first, which meant he won the title. But the circumstances were extraordinary. But yeah, I was a bit off, wasn't I?
Yeah. And Callum O, it was you that got it right. You said there'll be a close battle this season for the championship. I think you still said Lewis would probably end up kind of taking it away from Verstappen towards the end of the year, but you predicted a close battle, and you must be pleased with yourself with what you saw.
Yeah, I remember having a massive sort of dilemma after testing about, this could be the year that someone takes off Hamilton, but not quite having the confidence to say it, which now I regret. But I kind of, that was my only, I think I might have said it on the podcast, but I said it enough times that otherwise, so long as it was close, I didn't necessarily have a preference who won. And it literally went down to the last lap of the last race with them tied on points. So I got what I asked for. So I'm more than happy to have got it wrong, but I've got a close title fight.
How are you feeling during that Abu Dhabi Grand Prix? I'll go around and ask all the other guys this, and I'll deliberately come to Joshua last. How are you feeling when it happened? Because I think it's important to talk about.
I mean, it was mental. I think with about lap 45, when Christian Horner said, we're going to need a miracle, I think me and the people I was watching, we all joked about a safety car or anything, a red flag, anything like that. and you see the yellow flags come off and you think, oh, yeah, what's this? And then Latifi's missing a wheel and is backwards in a barrier. And it was shocking. I mean, they got it wrong. Goes without saying they got it awfully wrong. But I think it was a perfect way for the season to end, just with a few little bits of it wrong. I think the right call would have been a red flag. I think, because I can see what they're trying to do. And I see it as a fan watching at home. I was sat on the edge of my seat. And that's what F1 wants, is entertainment, because at the end of the day, as much as they are a sport, they're also a form of entertainment. So I think the red flag would have secured a 5-lap shootout to the end, and they would have got fair racing within the rules and entertainment. I think they just got it slightly wrong, but still probably one of the best things I've ever watched, regardless of that, just of how exciting it was.
The best thing to see for me on the day was everybody on Twitter was talking about Formula One. Although it was in a negative
which
way,
was horrible.
We have to say that, which was really bad to see. Great to see everyone. I remember thinking, it's great to see how many people are talking about this, but all for the wrong reasons. I'll go one better than you from the agency. I was stood up. I was in my uni room on my own. Not many people that I'm friends with like Formula One particularly. They all watched it, but I'm usually kind of up against the wall, just kind of maybe on my phone, just kind of watching what's going on in the background. Whereas I was stood up, and I will admit I shed a tear at the end of the race. I took a video of myself, and I don't know, it sounds ridiculous, but I just could not believe, I think, what I'd seen. I was obviously rooting for Max, and I thought as soon as the safety car went out, I thought, yeah, that's it, safety car, it's over. Lewis has won this. There's no way they'll get this restarted. Not a chance that they'll get this restarted. And then when the lap cars were let through, I don't care less what the rules were and what they weren't. I was going, Max Verstappen is going to win this title. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind about it. And obviously he went for the move. That's probably when I leapt up and was like, yes, go on. I was just full of emotion by the end of it and absolutely delighted. And then I obviously saw, I think that was me getting too caught up in the entertainment as well. And then you look back on it and you think, yeah, Verstappen probably deserved it overall, but the way it was won was just absolutely horrible. But he did nothing wrong, and I can understand why the FIA got it wrong as well. A rush of blood to the head, and that kind of moment, making a rash decision is understandable. But you should have a position that should be able to make the right call under that high pressure situation. Callum M, talk us through your Sunday afternoon and how you were feeling.
Okay, so it was a long day, just regardless of the F1 that day. I remember it very clearly. So the the day before, I'd been working, and during the evening I'd been really unwell, and I probably woke up middle of the night just like really bad stomach cramps. So I reckon I had some food poisoning for something I'd eaten on Saturday. So I ended up waking up at about 1:45. So I literally, and not realizing it was 1:45, so I had to dash downstairs to see them all lining up on the grid. So not the way I wanted to start the day anyway. Watched the race, got super angry at the end, as you can probably imagine. There were many, many curse words. So again, part of that was me just feeling ill. But I've made my peace with it now, in that these things happen in sport, and in Formula One there have been several titles decided in the past that should not have been decided the way they were. 1994, to go back then, Michael Schumacher deliberately crashed into Damon Hill in the last race of the season, but did not get punished for it and ended up winning the world title. Again, that should not have had Damon Hill, should have won that title. Same with Alain Prost in 1989, when he very deliberately crashed into Ayrton Senna in Japan. I think we've all seen that footage. And again, same with Ayrton Senna, very deliberately ramming into Prost the following year to win the title. So again, these things happen. It just hasn't happened in a while, basically, and especially not for this kind of new generation of F1 fans. So I've made my peace with it, because these things happen in sport, But I was very angry at the time. In my head, Lewis Hamilton is the 2021 world champion. Michael Massey is a criminal. I made, I think I showed you guys, I made a J. Jonah Jameson meme where it's like, oh, Massey was a hero, for bringing out the safety car, and then minutes later, no, he's a criminal and a menace for not letting lapped cars through. But the whole thing just reeks of incompetence from the FIA, and they're still not handling it very well. Obviously, they've delayed the report until I think when when Bahrain Grand Prix happens in March, they're going to finally release their report.
Yeah,
which I reckon part of that is a ploy to keep Lewis Hamilton in sports, because I reckon if they released it now, he might come out and go, well, screw this, I'm off. Whereas if they kind of leave it to the last minute, he can't really do that, I guess. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. But yeah, the whole thing reeks of incompetence. The rules were not followed. And it's just the fact that, the 5 cars between Lewis and Max got unlapped, but then not the ones between Sainz and Max. Like, what if Sainz had overtaken Max? Again, it's these little things that they didn't consider at the time. And yeah, it just wasn't a very nice experience. And again, everyone was on Twitter moaning about it, which again can be good, obviously, but it also there was a lot of very bad stuff said on social media. It's kind of been not really reported on that Latifi got death threats and such following the race. I know
there was
one
Sky Sports article.
Yeah, like it was only like a couple of weeks after that he actually came to social media and said, "Look, this is what I've been through." And again, jokes were made of it at the time that people back in March were saying, "Oh, Latifi is going to decide this championship," as a joke, and obviously it's come true now. But yeah, again, there's been a lot of as entertaining as it would have been from a neutral point of view. The whole thing just reeks of incompetence. I don't think there's any corruption necessarily. I'm sure some people still think that. I think it was just they tried to set up something very entertaining when they should have just followed the rules. And it was still an entertaining race. You didn't need that one lap shootout. Like, I don't know why they felt they needed that. But yeah, as I've made my peace with it now. I just hope it doesn't happen again. I hope Michael Massey isn't the race director in the future. Sorry, you've just not done a very good job over the last 2 years, and this was the tip of the iceberg, really. But yeah, anyway, that's enough of a rant over. I'll let Josh cry a bit more now.
It's perfectly welcome. I think just to be clear as well, I completely agree with everything you're saying. I'm more talking about my emotions during the day. I was caught up in the whole entertainment factor. The fact I was rooting for Max as well made me kind of ignore rules not being followed and all this kind of rubbish and incompetence, like you said, that was going on. And I obviously very much am aware of what's going on. I don't want to make it seem like I'm stupid, and for what happened was absolutely brilliant, but it obviously wasn't. Just at the time, Max Verstappen winning the World Championship is what I wanted to happen, and it happened. So I was delighted, and obviously in the days after, even an hour after, I was my anger was then still delighted for Max, but my anger was still fueling up at what had gone on. At the time, I was also pretty annoyed with Mercedes as well. I was kind of like, come on, just let this go. But then again, you can also now see why they were so furious about it and why they wanted to appeal. And I think in the end, they said they didn't want the championship to be decided in a courtroom, which I think is fair enough. And we could probably all agree that that's not something we want to see. Joshua, you're the Lewis Hamilton fan, you're the Mercedes fan. You've made that quite clear all year. Been quite hard on you already. So I'm just going to say, what was your Sunday like? Same as to Callum.
Well, almost regrettably, I was actually at football for the majority of it. I was at a football game, so I got there early. I watched the first 36 laps, I think it was. Hamilton beat him off the line. It was all looking comfortable. I was like, fine. What could happen? What could possibly happen that could change this? And then football was coming to a close towards half time. I had Twitter on, was checking my phone, and then I was like. And then obviously I get getting messages from all of you. I was like starting to panic. I was like, okay, what's happened? Got Sky Go up, and saw Latifi bin it because it was on the delay. I was like, oh god. And then it was just a comedy of errors. Again, they got the one decision that they shouldn't have come to. Either red flag it for racing integrity, or finish it under the safety car if you don't want to red flag it, you don't want to have this delay, and you just need to clear the track. Either of those two would have been a fair way to end. If you finish under safety car, no one can deny Hamilton led 51 and 57 laps, or 50. Well, he was leading at the end. I know he was behind Perez for a bit after that pit stop, but he beat him off the line. He would have won it fairly. If you red flag it and you start from that position, if Max beats him off the line, he beats him off the line, and we race for 6 laps. You can't let 5 people go and not everyone. As we've said, it's not corruption, but it felt a bit engineering an outcome or a possibility rather than racing integrity. Again, I'm over it. I've accepted the fact that this decision, I didn't really want to see it go to the Court of Appeals, just because to take it away from Max like that, I don't think Hamilton would have wanted that, but it just sort of tarnishes it a bit. And like I said before, over the course of the season, he was the better driver. He deserves to win it over the majority of the races. If you like, I know I've said before, we shouldn't have been in this position because of Hungary. No, it wasn't Hungary. Whatever lap it was, Belgium, I think it was, that he got 12.5 points for following a safety car. But then you get the argument, so if Hamilton didn't crash into him at Silverstone, or if he didn't have failure at Baku, or whatever it is. But over the course of the season, I think it's probably the right outcome, not the fair outcome based on the final race.
Yeah, I think that's kind of all that needs to be said on it. I'm kind of conscious of time as well, and we could make a whole. We could stop recording now, and if we wanted to make a whole other podcast on it, and we're not going to do that. We haven't got time for that, and obviously loads of other people have done it, and they'll probably all share similar opinions to us on that one. So yeah, there's lots more that could be said, but I think it's all kind of been said already, but by various other people. But good to get the three perspectives on what you thought. We'll just close off with the wild predictions that we made at the start of the season. Just over, I set a window point system, but I've got a spreadsheet in front of me. I couldn't resist having a look at how many we all got right. So in terms of putting drivers in exactly the right position, the guy who watches Formula One that has probably watched Formula One the least in terms of in their lifetimes out of everybody, understandably came last. That was me. I got 4 in the correct position. Next, it was then Callum O, who got 5 correct. Then we have Callum M, who got 6 correct, and Joshua, you're our champion this season. You got 7 correct. So looking forward to next season, where we can kind of compare how we did to last year. You've got Mazepin, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Norris, Perez, and Bottas correct. So those were your 7.
Very nice.
And I'll send you all the spreadsheets. You can have a look at what you got right. In terms of the teams, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right. Joshua got 3. Callum O got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Callum M got 1, 2, 3. So Callum O wins the team one. So yeah, well done to you two. Let's have a look at our wild predictions then. Callum M, you were spot on with this one. COVID obviously hasn't gone away in the world. We're still kind of living with it now. Not as obviously as bad as it probably was last year, although you probably could say it was. But you said that 6 races would be cancelled this season. I can think of 5 that were moved. Can you think of that one? And I'm sure you're pleased with yourself at that prediction. And you're on mute.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that. I think I did try to work out how many have been cancelled. The problem is that some got you had Turkey, which wasn't on the original calendar, then was brought in for a race, and then it got cancelled, and then it got re-put back in. So I was like, well, do I count that as a race that got cancelled? Because it wasn't. I think I got it right, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think we're going to see. Actually, no, I still think we're going to see races cancelled next year. I know we are probably definitely going to get Australia at last. Great, we're going to go to Albert Park, which is a crap circuit, but whatever, that's another argument for another day. I think I mostly got this right. But it was great to see fans back in the stands. I actually didn't realise how much I'd missed that kind of visual in 2020. Yeah. So, no, really good to see that. And from a personal point of view, I got to go to Silverstone for the Classic last July. So again, that was really fun. Something I hadn't been able to do because of COVID. So yeah, I'm happy with that prediction.
Good stuff. Yeah, I can't think of. I've got Australia, China, Japan that went. Canada
Singapore.
we also lost, and I think Singapore the other
Singapore
one,
and
but you can't
Turkey
count that
technically.
one.
So yeah, I think I got 6. Yeah,
we'll give you Turkey. We'll give you 6. Yeah, we'll give you 6. And great to see the fans back as well. It was great to hear. I think Stanport was one hell of an event as well with the fans there. And I was obviously lucky enough to be at Silverstone for that weekend as well, which was a fantastic weekend. And I remember that for reasons other than racing as well. Obviously, there was that big crash as well, but that was a fantastic weekend. And I'm sure Formula One do a great job of putting on a good event wherever they go. Sandport, we saw that. Silverstone, I witnessed that firsthand. Callum O, let's come to you. You said that Haas would be sold to Mazepin. I'm not sure that's happened as far as I'm aware, but it has the potential to.
It was just wrong. No, I don't know. You always see Gene Haas moping about Drive to Survive, looking very fed up. So I thought maybe this would be the year. They've got the rich backer with the rich son who's young and wants to be an F1 driver. I don't know. Yeah, I was wrong. Unlucky.
An understandable prediction that you made, though, to be fair. Joshua, you got this one right. Three of the 4 of us got our wild predictions right, which, to be fair, at the start of the season, you probably would have said wouldn't happen. So that's good. Joshua, you said Ricciardo would win a race, and it happened.
Yeah, it was genuinely more positive thinking and wishing it into existence more than genuinely believing it. I think I've always liked Daniel Ricciardo as long as I can remember, really, even before Drive to Survive. He was just a character. I always liked McLaren as well when Lewis was there. So it was a sort of dream partnership, really. And he got a win, and he got a win in his sort of home race by affiliation, really. He's not Italian, but he's got Italian roots. And if he couldn't win in Australia, I think he would have picked a win in Monza. So I think we can both be happy with that.
I think the thing is, all of your predictions were realistic. I made 2. I don't know why. But I said Giovinazzi would finish on the podium. It didn't happen. It was never going to happen and never will ever happen because we probably won't see him in Formula One ever again. So we'll brush that one aside. I always put Vettel 5th, which you can probably say is wild. But I was surprised when I listened back and said this. I did say that Lewis and Max would have a crash this year, and it happened 3 times. And I genuinely don't remember saying that at all. So I had to say I'm pretty pleased with that one. And Callum O, you could say that you saying that there'll be a close battle for the championship was wild because none of us really suggested that it would be. So we'll give you that one. We'll say we all got something right, which I was very impressed and surprised by. So that's good for us. It's been a fantastic 2021. We're going to be back for 2022, of course, if the 3 of you still want to carry on putting up with me and chatting about Formula One. So sounds good to me. We'll do another episode just like last year, where we'll rank our 20 drivers, rank the 10 teams, give some wild predictions, and hopefully we sat here probably in about the end of November, isn't it? The end of next season, because we've got the Qatar World Cup. So we'll be sat November, December time, hopefully being able to look back on those and seeing if Josh can retain his title of predictions champion that he's now going to have for the next season. And no, I'm not going to go back and look through what predictions we got right throughout the whole season when we did our 1, 2, 3. I haven't got that sort of time on my hands. But yeah, fantastic. Thank you all for the first season of the pod. It's been really enjoyable, and can't wait to do it again next year. And the next season should be another exciting one. Lots to look forward to in 2022, and as well as all the stuff on the Babel site as well. So keep across all of that from the 4 of us and all the other writers. All that's left to say is Callum M, Callum O, Joshua Fletcher, thank you very much for your help this season. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in probably just over a month's time where we can discuss testing and have some predictions for the new season. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who listened throughout the season, and Sebastian Vettel will win the World Championship next year. That's my own prediction for 2022. Thank you all. We'll see you all again soon, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.